Welcome to Hidden Truths, the place where the stories you've been told are only the surface and the real truths lie hidden underneath. Here we dig into the shadows behind everyday life, money, power, society, and expose the patterns designed to shape your choices without you ever noticing. In today's world, every new innovation is sold as progress. Smarter devices, faster connections, bigger systems. But what if progress itself isn't designed to free you, but to bind you? What if every upgrade, every convenience, every leap forward quietly takes away a skill, a choice, or a piece of your independence? And what if the very systems you rely on most are the ones keeping you from ever walking away? In this episode of The Progress Trap, we're going to uncover the hidden design of modern advancement and why true freedom isn't found in the next upgrade, but in breaking the cycle entirely. Because once you see the trap, you can finally step out of it. Introduction and the concept of the progress trap. They call it progress. They tell you it's the story of human greatness, the steady climb from the caves to the stars. They show you gleaming cities, devices that fit the world into the palm of your hand, and machines that can think faster than you ever could. And it's true, we have come a long way. We've crossed oceans in hours, mapped the human genome, and connected billions of people in real time. We can grow food in deserts, print organs in laboratories, and see galaxies billions of light years away. It feels like we are unstoppable. It feels like progress is the purest sign that we are moving forward. But here's the question no one likes to ask. If progress is meant to make us stronger, freer, and more capable, why do so many of us feel weaker, more trapped, and more dependent than ever? Think about it. If your phone died right now, how many phone numbers would you remember? If GPS stopped working, could you navigate to your destination without it? If the power grid failed for a week, would you know how to keep yourself warm, safe, and fed? The uncomfortable truth is that many of us wouldn't, and that's not an accident. It's not because we're lazy or because we were born in the wrong generation. It's because the very systems that were sold to us as progress have slowly, carefully, and deliberately stripped away our ability to live without them. This is what I call the progress trap. It's a pattern that has repeated itself throughout history. A cycle where an innovation promises freedom but ends up tightening the chains. From empowerment to enslavement. The first tools our ancestors created were meant to make survival easier. Stone knives to cut meat, fire to keep predators away, spears to hunt more efficiently. These tools didn't take away our independence, they enhanced it. If the spear broke, you could make another. If the fire went out, you could start a new one. You owned the skill, not just the tool. But as society advanced, something changed. Tools became more complex, and so did the systems required to maintain them. You could no longer just make your own. You had to rely on specialists, on industries, on infrastructures too large for any one person to control. The invention of the plow increased food production, but also created dependency on land ownership, irrigation systems, and political powers that controlled them. The steam engine made transportation faster, but it tied cities to coal supplies and centralized railway companies. Electricity brought light and power, but it made us entirely dependent on an invisible grid that, if cut, would plunge us back into the dark in seconds. Every step forward seemed to give with one hand and take with the other. And over time, the taking has grown far more powerful than the giving. Why you don't notice the trap. The most effective traps are the ones you don't see. And the progress trap is not a sudden cage slammed around you. It's a slow, gentle tightening of the world around you, disguised as comfort. When you first get a new technology, it feels like a gift. It solves a problem you used to have. It saves you time. It makes life easier. But what you don't realize is that while solving one problem, it's creating another, one that you won't notice until you're too far in to escape. You buy a GPS device because you don't want to get lost. Now you can't find your way without it. You subscribe to a cloud storage service because you want your files backed up. Now you can't access them unless you keep paying. You start using voice assistants because they're convenient. Now you can't function without talking to a machine for basic tasks. Dependency doesn't announce itself. It just slowly becomes the air you breathe until you forget there was ever another way to live. The illusion of freedom. Progress has been marketed as the ultimate form of freedom. They tell you you can work from anywhere. You can talk to anyone instantly. You can access limitless knowledge with a single search. But this freedom is conditional. It exists as long as the system providing it chooses to keep it running. If your internet is cut off, how much of that freedom remains? If your bank account is frozen, how many of your options vanish overnight? If the power grid fails for a week, how much of your smart life is suddenly useless? Real freedom means you can act without permission. The progress trap has replaced that with freedom that only works until someone flips a switch. Engineered dependency. Here's the part most people don't want to believe. The progress trap is not always accidental. In many cases, it is designed. Think about the business model behind so many modern innovations. Devices that are intentionally hard to repair. Software that works only with constant updates and subscriptions. Features locked behind monthly payments. These are not flaws, they are strategies. Because a truly independent user, one who could keep using their tools without constant upgrades, without being tied to a network, without needing corporate permission, is not profitable. The ultimate goal of the progress trap is not to give you more power. It's to give you just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to make you self-reliant. The story we're told versus the truth. We are taught to see progress as a straight line, always upward, always toward a better life. But in reality, it's more like a spiral, circling the same point, each loop binding us tighter to the systems that control it. The story we're told. Every upgrade makes us stronger. Every new device is a step forward. Every problem can be solved with technology. The truth. Many upgrades make us weaker when we lose them. New devices often solve problems we didn't have before. Technology often creates new problems faster than it solves old ones. And here's the kicker. Once you've adapted to the new system, going back feels impossible, even if the old way was more resilient. Why this matters now more than ever. We are entering an age where almost every aspect of life is tied to interconnected systems, systems we do not control. Food supply chains depend on global transport networks. Financial transactions rely on centralized digital systems. Even our conversations are mediated by corporate-owned platforms. The more advanced these systems become, the more fragile they get, and the more catastrophic the consequences if they fail. In the past, if a tool broke, you fixed it. If the power went out, you lit a candle. If a crop failed, you found another source. Today, a single point of failure can shut down entire cities, entire industries, entire nations. And yet we keep racing forward, building taller towers on thinner foundations. The question at the heart of this series, the progress trap is not about rejecting technology. It's not about going back to the Stone Age. It's about asking, who does this progress really serve? Does it give us more control over our own lives, or does it give others more control over us? Because if the answer is the second, then maybe what we're calling advancement is actually just a more sophisticated form of dependence. And if we don't recognize the trap while we can still step back, we might reach a point where escape is no longer possible. The hidden price of convenience. We live in an age where convenience is king. One-click ordering, same-day delivery, voice commands that turn on the lights, brew your coffee, and tell you the weather. It's seductive, it's addictive, and it's everywhere. You don't have to remember directions. GPS will guide you. You don't have to cook. An app will deliver hot food to your door in minutes. You don't have to shop. Subscriptions will keep your pantry stocked. On the surface, this is progress. Convenience saves us time, frees our mental energy, and lets us focus on what really matters, or at least that's the sales pitch. But what if convenience is not the gift it appears to be? What if every step toward making life easier is also a step toward making us incapable of living without the system that provides it? This is the hidden price of convenience, a cost measured not in money, but in lost ability, lost resilience, and lost independence. The silent trade we make. Every time you accept convenience, you're making a trade. You're trading a skill for a service. You're trading independence for speed. You're trading self-reliance for someone else's reliability. When you first make the trade, it feels harmless. Why waste time learning to navigate with a map when your phone can do it better? Why spend hours cooking when you can get a professional meal in 30 minutes? Why remember passwords when your browser will remember them for you? But here's the problem. The skill you give up doesn't just go dormant, it decays. And once it's gone, you can't instantly get it back. It's like a muscle you start using. Atrophy is slow and invisible until one day you need it and it's gone. The death of everyday skills. Take navigation. For most of human history, people memorized landmarks, read the position of the sun, recognized the shapes of coastlines, and even read the stars. Now, most of us can't even get across town without following a voice from a satellite orbiting Earth. Take cooking. Our grandparents learned to cook out of necessity, often with whatever was on hand. Today, many people don't own more than 2 pans, because why bother when takeout is cheaper, faster, and good enough? Take memory. Phone numbers, birthdays, addresses, these used to live in our minds. Now they live on a server, and if you lose your phone or your cloud account is locked, you lose a piece of your life. These are not just quaint, old-fashioned skills. They are survival skills, and convenience is erasing them, one by one. The comfort-control equation. Here's the paradox. The more convenient something is, the more control it tends to require, not from you, but from the system providing it. Think about ride-hailing apps. You tap a button, a car arrives. You don't need to know the route, the fare, or even the driver. But for that to work, you need a functioning smartphone, a working internet connection, access to the app's platform, payment methods the platform accepts. If any one of these points fails or is denied to you, your freedom to get a ride disappears instantly. The very convenience you rely on is also the leash that can be pulled at any moment. Dependency by design. This is not just a side effect. In many cases, dependency is by design. The companies that provide these services know that the easier they make life for you, the less likely you are to go elsewhere, because elsewhere requires effort, and effort feels like going backward. That's why they remove friction at every step. One-click checkout so you don't rethink the purchase. Autoplay so you don't decide whether to keep watching. Auto-renew so you never have to consciously choose to keep paying. You don't just use the service, you adapt your life around it. And once you do, the idea of losing it feels like losing a limb. The illusion of efficiency. Convenience sells itself as efficiency. It tells you, why waste time on X when you could spend it on Y? But here's the catch. Most of the time saved by convenience doesn't go into meaningful pursuits. It goes into consuming more of the same system, more scrolling, more streaming, more shopping. We're not just saving time, we're reshaping our lives so that the system gets more of our attention, more of our money, and more of our trust. How convenience rewrites your brain. Convenience doesn't just change what you do, it changes what you're willing to do. Psychologists call it effort discounting. The more effort a task requires, the less willing we are to do it. When you're used to the easiest possible option, everything else feels harder than it actually is. If you've always used a dishwasher, hand washing a few plates feels exhausting. If you've always had food delivery, cooking a simple meal feels overwhelming. If you've always used GPS, reading a paper map feels impossible. Over time, your threshold for effort drops lower and lower, until even small challenges feel like mountains. When the system fails. Here's the most dangerous part. The more you outsource to convenience, the less prepared you are when the system fails. If the GPS goes offline during a storm, do you know how to make a meal from what's in your pantry? If the GPS goes offline, can you find your way without it? If your bank's payment system is down, do you have another way to access money? These scenarios aren't hypothetical. We've seen them happen. Massive GPS outages grounding flights, cloud storage failures deleting years of work, payment processor errors halting transactions for millions of people. When convenience becomes the default, disruption becomes disaster. The seduction of seamless. The tech industry loves the word seamless. It means frictionless, effortless, instant. It also means invisible. When a process is invisible, you stop thinking about how it works. You don't notice who's controlling it, who's collecting data, or what rules they've built into it. You just accept the results. That's how control becomes invisible, hidden under the soft blanket of convenience. Breaking the spell. Convenience isn't evil in itself. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used to empower or to weaken. The problem is when we let it replace our ability to live without it. The first step in breaking the spell is awareness. Ask yourself what skills you've stopped practicing because of convenience. Identify the services you couldn't live without and question why. Try going without them for a day, just to see how dependent you've become. It's not about rejecting modern life. It's about refusing to give up the basic abilities that keep you free when modern life falters. The real price tag. Convenience always has a price tag, but it's rarely printed on the box. It's in the erosion of your resilience. It's in the shrinking of your skill set. It's in the subtle shift from choosing to use a system to needing it to survive. And once you need it, you no longer have the power. The system does. The history of progress and dependency. If you zoom out and look at the entire story of humanity, you'll see a repeating pattern. Every leap forward, every major breakthrough starts with empowerment. It gives people more capability, more comfort, more control over their environment. But then, over time, that same breakthrough begins to demand something in return. It introduces new dependencies, new vulnerabilities, and new gatekeepers. It trades one set of limitations for another. This isn't new. It has been happening for thousands of years. And when you see it in history, it's easier to recognize it in the present and to prepare for it in the future. The agricultural revolution, from freedom to feudalism. 10,000 years ago, humans made one of the most important transitions in history. We moved from hunting and gathering to farming. At first, this was a massive win. Agriculture meant more stable food supplies, the ability to store surplus, and the chance to build permanent settlements. But it also introduced the first large-scale dependency traps. Farmers became dependent on land fertility, weather cycles, and predictable seasons. Surplus food meant population growth, which created the need for organized defense, governance, and resource distribution. Land became property, and property became power. For many, this shift didn't mean more freedom. It meant being tied to one plot of land, working harder hours than hunters and gatherers, and relying on the authority that controlled water rights and harvest storage. The agricultural revolution gave us civilization, but it also gave us the first taste of being dependent on centralized systems. The Industrial Revolution, from craftsmanship to the clock. Fast forward to the 18th and 19th centuries, and the world was transformed again. Steam engines, textile mills, and mechanized production created incredible wealth. Goods became cheaper, cities grew, and global trade exploded. But the Industrial Revolution also made millions of people dependent on machines they didn't own, factories they didn't control, and wages they couldn't set. Before industrialization, a craftsman could own his tools and trade his skills for a living. After industrialization, most workers became cogs in someone else's machine, tied to factory schedules, living in overcrowded cities, vulnerable to layoffs, accidents, and economic crashes. The clock, once a tool for navigation and astronomy, became a whip, dividing every day into tightly controlled work hours. Progress created productivity, but it also created dependency on industrial systems and the people who ran them. The Electrical Revolution, from darkness to the grid. The arrival of electricity was nothing short of magical. It extended the day beyond sunset, powered homes and factories, and gave rise to inventions from refrigerators to radios. But electricity also centralized control over energy. You no longer made your own light from candles or oil lamps. You relied on a grid managed by corporations or governments. If the grid failed, everything stopped. Factories went silent, homes went dark, hospitals lost power, and entire cities froze in place. Electricity brought enormous benefits, but it also meant that a single point of failure could cripple an entire society. The Digital Revolution, from information scarcity to digital dependency. The Internet promised the democratization of knowledge. It connected people across continents, gave anyone a voice, and made information accessible to almost anyone with a device. But it also concentrated power in the hands of a few technology giants who now control the platforms, the algorithms, and the flow of information. We went from libraries and personal archives to cloud storage and algorithm-curated feeds. We no longer own our data. We rent it, and it lives on someone else's server. And the dependency is deeper than we realize. Without the internet, many businesses can't function. Without digital payment systems, commerce grinds to a halt. Without access to search engines, most people can't find or verify information. The digital revolution gave us more connectivity than ever before, but it also made our lives fragile in ways we've never seen before. The pattern repeats. In every era, the cycle is the same. Innovation arrives, solving a real problem. People adopt it because it's easier, faster, or better than before. Systems form around it, creating rules, infrastructure, and supply chains. Dependency grows as alternatives disappear or become impractical. Control shifts from individuals to the entities managing the system. And the scariest part is, once dependency reaches a certain point, even if you see the trap, stepping out of it is almost impossible without giving up modern life entirely. Why we keep falling for it? Part of the reason is psychological. Humans are wired to seek efficiency and reduce effort. When we see a tool that makes life easier, our instinct is to adopt it quickly. But we rarely ask the second-order questions. What skill will I lose if I rely on this? Who controls this system? What happens if it stops working? The other reason is social pressure. Once enough people adopt a technology, the old way becomes obsolete, not because it stops working, but because society stops supporting it. For example, you might want to pay in cash, but the store only accepts cards. You might want to use a paper map, but no one else knows how to read one. You might want to write letters, but your friends only respond to instant messages. The network effect turns adoption into obligation. The point of no return. Every major leap in history has had a point of no return, a moment where the new system becomes so embedded that the old ways vanish. Once farming villages outnumbered hunters and gatherers, returning to the wild wasn't realistic. Once factories replaced workshops, most people couldn't make a living without industrial jobs. Once electricity became the default, life without it felt primitive. Once the internet became essential, being offline became social and economic exile. These points of no return are where progress stops being a choice and becomes a requirement, and that's where dependency locks in. Looking ahead, if history is any guide, the next great leap, artificial intelligence, automation, or bioengineering, will follow the same pattern. It will start as empowerment, it will solve real problems, it will feel like liberation. But unless we're careful, it will also introduce dependencies we can't easily escape, and once again, control will shift away from individuals and toward the few who own the system. The economics of dependency. If there is one truth that ties all eras of human progress together, it's this: where there is dependency, there is profit. Dependency isn't just a byproduct of technological advancement. In many cases, it's the business model itself. The more you rely on a product, a service, or a system, the more predictable your spending becomes. And predictable spending is the holy grail of corporate economics. This is why so many of the innovations you see today are not designed to make you independent. They are designed to keep you coming back, month after month, year after year. Planned obsolescence, breaking things on purpose. Planned obsolescence sounds like a conspiracy theory until you realize it's openly taught in business schools. It's the practice of designing products to wear out, break, or become outdated in a set period of time, forcing you to replace them. Think about smartphones. The average flagship phone lasts about 3 to 5 years before it becomes too slow to use comfortably. Not because the materials can't last longer, but because software updates slow older devices, battery capacity is locked to degrade over time. New models are marketed as essential upgrades, making old models socially obsolete. This isn't limited to electronics. Appliances, cars, clothes, entire industries are built on the assumption that you will have to buy again, not because you want to, but because you have no choice. In this model, the goal is not to sell you the best product possible. The goal is to sell you the most profitable lifespan. The subscription economy, renting your life. There was a time when you bought something once and it was yours. Now, more and more industries are shifting to subscription models, not because it's better for the customer, but because it locks in revenue forever. You don't own your music, you rent it from streaming services. You don't own your software, you subscribe to it. You don't even own some of the cars you buy. You lease certain features that can be activated or deactivated remotely. The beauty of the subscription model from a business perspective is that you can never truly leave. Your files are stored in their cloud. Your playlists are locked in their platform. Your workflow is built on their tools. To leave would mean rebuilding your life from scratch, and most people won't. This is engineered dependency disguised as convenience. Monetizing the upgrade cycle. Upgrades are framed as progress, better cameras, faster processors, new features. But behind the marketing is a carefully timed cycle. Release a product that's good, but not perfect. Release the improved version next year. Make sure the new features are just tempting enough to lure you in. Slowly phase out support for older models. It's the business equivalent of dangling a carrot in front of a horse, always just out of reach, always keeping you moving forward, toward your wallet. The ecosystem trap. Tech companies love ecosystems, networks of products and services designed to work best when you own them all. If you have the phone, you'll want the watch. If you have the watch, you'll want the earbuds. If you have the earbuds, you'll want the tablet, the laptop, the smart home hub. Each product by itself is good. Together, they're great. But here's the catch. Once you're fully inside, leaving is nearly impossible without replacing everything. It's not about selling you one device. It's about making you dependent on an entire environment that they control, where every exit has a toll. Dependency as a revenue stream. From the corporate perspective, your reliance on their system is worth more than your one-time purchase. It's recurring revenue. It's brand loyalty without choice. It's the comfort of knowing that as long as you live in their ecosystem, you will keep paying, willingly or not. The best customers, from a profit standpoint, are not the ones who love the product. They're the ones who can't leave. Data, the new currency of control. In the modern economy, dependency isn't just about the money you spend. It's about the data you give. The more you rely on a system, the more it learns about you, and that data is worth billions. Search engines know what you want before you do. Streaming services know your tastes better than your friends. Social media platforms know your fears, your habits, and your triggers, and they sell that knowledge to advertisers. The more dependent you are, the more complete the profile they can build. The more complete the profile, the easier it is to influence your decisions, including the decision to keep paying. Why true independence is bad for business. If you had a device that lasted a lifetime, never needed upgrades, and never required a subscription, the company would make one sale and then never hear from you again. From a business perspective, that's a nightmare. From your perspective, that's freedom. This is why you rarely see products designed for true longevity, repairability, or self-sufficiency. Not because it's impossible, but because it's unprofitable. The psychological lever, fear of missing out. Corporations don't just sell you products, they sell you the fear of being left behind. New models, new features, new styles, all marketed as if you'll be outdated, less capable, or even socially invisible without them. The message is clear. If you don't upgrade, you don't belong. And belonging is a powerful motivator. The economy of endless appetite. When dependency is profitable, innovation shifts from solving real problems to creating endless desires. You don't need the newest phone, but you want it. You don't need the upgraded car, but you crave it. You don't need the premium subscription, but you fear missing out if you don't have it. This is not a flaw in the system. This is the system. Technology as soft control. When people think of control, they imagine something obvious: barbed wire, handcuffs, locks on doors. But in the modern world, control rarely looks like that. It doesn't need to, not when it can be woven into the very fabric of the technology you use every single day. This is what I call soft control, the invisible influence that doesn't force you to obey, but quietly shapes the choices you make until you don't even think about resisting. It's not about locking you in a cage. It's about making the cage so comfortable you never want to leave. The comfort that shapes behavior. The most effective form of control doesn't come from punishment, it comes from reward. When your phone suggests a route, you take it. When your streaming service autoplays the next episode, you watch it. When your shopping app recommends a product, you buy it. No one told you that you must. No one threatened you if you didn't. You simply followed the path of least resistance, the path that technology gently laid out for you. This is how soft control works. It's not about telling you what to do. It's about designing the environment so you naturally do what benefits the system. The walled garden effect. Big tech companies have a favorite strategy: create an ecosystem so smooth, so integrated, that you never want to leave. If you buy one device, you'll want another that works perfectly with it. If you buy their software, you'll need their cloud service to store the data. If you buy their cloud service, you'll want their subscription that unlocks premium features. Every choice you make inside the garden feels effortless. Every choice outside it feels difficult, messy, and inconvenient. Over time, you stop thinking about alternatives. You don't even see the walls anymore. Data as a steering wheel. Every tap, every search, every purchase you make is data, and that data becomes the steering wheel that guides your future choices. Search for a single product, and suddenly you're seeing ads for it everywhere. Watch one video, and the algorithm starts feeding you a never-ending stream of similar content. Like one post, and the platform adjusts your feed to keep you engaged longer. You think you're making your own decisions. In reality, the technology is narrowing your options, filtering your information, and nudging you toward the choices that make the system more money or more control. The invisible rules. Every digital platform operates on rules, but most of these rules are invisible to you. Some are technical, which devices it works on, which formats it supports. Some are behavioral, which kind of content gets promoted, which words trigger flags. Some are political or economic, which regions have access, which competitors are blocked. You might not see the rules, but you feel them when you step outside the boundaries. A feature stops working, an account gets suspended, a payment doesn't go through. And just like that, you're reminded that your access isn't a right, it's a permission. The psychology of default. Most people don't change defaults. We accept the settings that come with our devices, our apps, our platforms, and defaults are powerful because they silently decide how the system behaves for you. The default privacy setting might share more data than you realize. The default search engine might filter results in ways you never see. The default recommended list might be less about your preferences and more about corporate partnerships. By controlling the default, the system controls the baseline of your digital life. and most people will never question it. The seduction of smart. Smart devices are marketed as life-enhancing tools. Smart TVs that recommend shows. Smart thermostats that adjust automatically. Smart speakers that order products with your voice. But smart also means connected, and connected means controlled. A traditional lock only opened when you turn the key. A smart lock can be opened or disabled remotely by whoever owns the system. The more smart your environment becomes, the more you depend on invisible networks and unseen operators. And in that dependency lies the potential for control. When convenience becomes compliance. Soft control works best when compliance feels like convenience. You don't protest when your device forces an update, you assume it's for your benefit. You don't object when your payment app freezes a suspicious transaction, you assume it's protecting you. You don't question when your account is temporarily suspended, you assume it's a glitch. But each of these moments is also a reminder your ability to act can be paused, altered, or denied at any time. The illusion of choice. We often think we have infinite choice in the digital world. Millions of videos, products, and voices at our fingertips. But in reality, those choices are curated, filtered, and prioritized by algorithms you didn't design and can't see. Yes, you can choose, but only from the options they decide to put in front of you. Everything else might as well not exist. The risk of total integration. The more we integrate technology into every part of our lives, the more we hand over the power to shape those lives. When your home, your car, your finances, your communication, and even your health devices are connected, control over your technology is control of you. This doesn't have to mean malicious intent. It simply means the system has the capacity to limit, redirect, or monitor you, and you may not have the capacity to refuse. Freedom in a soft cage. The most dangerous thing about soft control is that it doesn't feel like control. You're not chained, you're not threatened, you can leave anytime, in theory. But in practice, leaving would mean giving up too much comfort, too much connection, too much integration. And so, you stay. And so, the cage tightens, one gentle nudge at a time. The psychology of reliance. Dependency isn't just mechanical. It's not only about systems, devices, and infrastructure. Dependency is psychological. It seeps into the way we think, into what we believe about ourselves, and into the limits we unconsciously accept. You don't just use technology, you become shaped by it. Your habits, your confidence, even your identity adapt to the systems you rely on. And once your mind is trained to rely, breaking free becomes far more than a matter of just deciding to stop. The dopamine loop. Modern technology is engineered to make you feel good every time you use it, not in a deep, lasting way that comes from real achievement, but in quick bursts of dopamine. A like, a notification, a message, a new feature to explore. These are tiny rewards that keep you coming back, often without conscious thought. The moment you feel bored, anxious, or uncertain, your mind seeks the comfort of these micro-hits of satisfaction. The problem? Your brain starts associating technology not just with utility, but with emotional regulation. It becomes the place you go to escape discomfort, which means the less you can be without it, the more dependent you become. Loss aversion, the fear of losing access. Psychologists have a term called loss aversion, We feel the pain of losing something more strongly than the joy of gaining something of equal value. Tech companies understand this deeply. They build services in ways that make the thought of losing them uncomfortable, even frightening. Think about it. Your entire photo library is on the cloud. Your contacts are stored in your phone. Your work is locked into one software ecosystem. The more of your life is stored in one place, the more losing access feels like losing a part of yourself. This is why dependency works, because it's not just about convenience, it's about emotional security. Learned helplessness. There's a darker layer to psychological reliance: learned helplessness. When you repeatedly outsource a skill or a decision to technology, you stop believing you can do it on your own. It's not that you physically can't, it's that you mentally don't even try. If your phone always spells for you, you stop caring about spelling. If your calendar always reminds you, you stop remembering dates. If GPS always guides you, you stop practicing navigation. Eventually, the mere thought of performing these tasks without assistance creates anxiety. That anxiety keeps you inside the system, reinforcing the dependency. The shrinking zone of effort. Human beings adapt quickly to ease. The more convenience we have, the lower our tolerance for effort becomes. If you've always had high-speed internet, waiting 10 seconds for a page to load feels unbearable. If you've always had a washing machine, the idea of hand-washing clothes feels exhausting. If you've always had instant communication, waiting days for a letter feels absurd. This shrinking zone of effort means that any disruption to your convenience feels like a crisis, even if, in reality, it's just a return to a slower but still functional way of living. The trust transfer. Reliance isn't just about what you stop doing, it's about where you transfer your trust. When you rely on a map, you trust the people who made it. When you rely on a GPS, you trust the company that coded it. When you rely on AI recommendations, you trust the algorithm, even though you don't know how it works or what biases it holds. Over time, you stop questioning whether the information is accurate, whether the service has your best interests in mind, or whether there might be an alternative. You assume the system knows best, and that assumption is exactly what makes soft control possible. Dependency feels safer. Here's the paradox. The more dependent we are, the safer we feel, as long as the system is working. It's like floating in a boat that you didn't build, don't understand, and can't repair. You trust that it will keep you afloat because it always has. But if it springs a leak, you realize too late that you have no idea how to swim. Dependency feels safe because it shields you from small challenges, but that same safety leaves you vulnerable to big ones. Social proof and peer pressure. Dependency doesn't just happen in isolation, it's reinforced by the people around us. If everyone in your office uses one tool, you're pressured to use it too. If all your friends are on one social platform, you feel left out if you're not. If the majority pays with digital wallets, using cash makes you that weird person. Social proof normalizes dependency. The more people rely on a system, the more it feels like the natural way to live, even when it's anything but natural. The invisible identity shift. The longer you live in a dependent system, the more it becomes part of your identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone who can cook or someone who can navigate, because you no longer have to. Instead, you think of yourself as someone who orders great takeout or someone who always knows the fastest route, forgetting that those abilities come from tools, not from you. This identity shift is subtle, but it's powerful. It makes dependency feel normal, even desirable. Breaking the mental lock. Breaking psychological reliance starts with awareness. It means asking uncomfortable questions. Could I do this without technology? If I couldn't, how much would it impact my life? Have I let a tool replace a skill I once had? It also means practicing small acts of independence, cooking from scratch, memorizing important information, navigating without GPS, not because you need it today, but because one day you might. The risk of never rebuilding the skill. Skills are perishable. If you lose them and never rebuild them, you create a permanent weakness in your personal resilience. And the truth is, the systems you rely on today may not be here tomorrow. Companies shut down, technology changes, policies shift. If you haven't prepared for that day, the shock will be far greater, not because the system failed, but because you failed to keep yourself capable. Why true independence is suppressed. If progress is meant to make us stronger, more capable, and more self-reliant, why is it that so few modern innovations actually set us free? Why do so many of them, instead, tie us more tightly to corporations, governments, and systems we cannot control? The uncomfortable truth is this: true independence is not profitable. It doesn't generate recurring revenue. It doesn't require constant upgrades. And most importantly, it doesn't keep you inside the system. That's why technologies that could make you genuinely self-sufficient often don't make it to market in their full potential. And if they do, they're quickly reshaped into something you have to keep paying for. The business model problem. From a purely economic standpoint, a product that makes you independent is a bad investment. For them, not for you. If you could buy a solar panel once and never need to pay an electric bill again, how much money would utility companies lose? If you had a water filtration system that lasted a lifetime without replacement parts, how many bottled water companies would go out of business? If you owned software that worked forever without updates, how much would the subscription economy collapse? The modern economy runs on recurring dependency, not one-time liberation. So even when an invention has the power to free you, it's often redesigned so that you remain tied to a revenue stream. The energy independence example. Decentralized renewable energy, solar, wind, microhydro, could allow millions of people to power their homes without relying on massive grids. The technology exists, it's proven. But notice how it's packaged. Leasing instead of ownership. Maintenance contracts you can't avoid. Proprietary battery systems that must be replaced every few years. Instead of a tool that sets you free, it becomes a service that keeps you paying. You still have power, but you also still have a bill. The suppression of long-lasting goods. Consider the centennial light bulb, a light bulb in California that's been burning for over 100 years. It's living proof that extremely durable consumer goods are possible, yet the average light bulb today lasts about 1,000 hours. This isn't an accident. It's a design choice rooted in a century-old agreement known as the Phoebus Cartel, where light bulb manufacturers deliberately limited bulb lifespans to boost sales. If something lasts forever, the market for it dies. So products are made to fail, not because they can't last, but because they're too good for the business model. The gatekeeping of breakthroughs. Some innovations are never widely released, not because they don't work, but because they would disrupt existing power structures. Think of water-powered engines, patents bought and shelved. Ultra-efficient batteries, developed but never mass-produced. Medical treatments, buried in favor of long-term profitable medications. Whether through corporate buyouts, legal restrictions, or quiet shelving, these breakthroughs vanish before they can threaten the profits of industries built on your ongoing dependence. Turning freedom into a service. Sometimes independence isn't suppressed, it's rebranded as a subscription. Example, personal health tracking. With the right knowledge, you could monitor your own health through basic tests and habits. But instead, companies create devices and apps that collect your health data and lock it behind paid analytics, premium features, and ongoing memberships. The result? You're still dependent, not on doctors for basic monitoring, but on the company that empowers you with your own information. The illusion of choice. Even when an independent solution is available, it's often buried under layers of marketing, policy, and infrastructure bias that make the dependent option the default. Sure, you could grow your own food, but zoning laws, HOA rules, and seed patent restrictions make it harder. Sure, you could use open-source software, but every major platform, employer, and institution pushes you toward proprietary systems. Sure, you could live off-grid, but regulations, fees, and lack of support make it costly and inconvenient. On paper, you have freedom. In reality, you have obstacles carefully placed to make that freedom impractical. Dependency as a form of control. From a control perspective, dependency is more powerful than force. A government doesn't need to physically restrain you if it can cut off your access to food, water, energy, or communication at the flip of a switch. A corporation doesn't need to convince you to buy if your tools won't function without their constant permission. By suppressing true independence, the system ensures that your survival and your comfort always pass through their hands. The cultural narrative. There's also a psychological dimension to suppression, cultural conditioning. We've been taught to see complete self-sufficiency as either unrealistic or undesirable. The narrative is, why struggle to do it yourself when someone else can do it better? Or, being independent is lonely, being connected is better. Or, if you don't have the latest technology, you're behind. This narrative turns self-reliance into a fringe choice, rather than the natural human baseline it once was. What they fear most. True independence isn't dangerous because it makes you powerful in a Hollywood sense. It's dangerous because it removes leverage. If you can feed yourself, you can't be forced to buy. If you can generate your own power, you can't be threatened by a blackout. If you can communicate without their networks, you can't be silenced. Independence is immunity, and immunity is bad for those who profit from your dependence. Convenience and the illusion of security. One of the most powerful ways to keep people inside a system is to make them feel safe. Safety is one of our deepest human needs, and modern technology has learned to package it as a product, a subscription, and a promise. We're told that these systems protect us. Fraud alerts from our bank, smart locks on our doors, real-time tracking on deliveries, biometric authentication on our devices. And in many ways, they do protect us. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The very same tools that make us feel secure often make us easier to control, and in some cases, more vulnerable than before. Because the moment your safety depends entirely on a system, that system becomes your gatekeeper. And gatekeepers don't just protect, they decide who gets in and who stays out. The cashless convenience. Digital payments are sold to us as safer, faster, and cleaner than cash. No more worrying about carrying bills. No more risk of losing your wallet. No more counting change. But when all your money exists only as digital entries on a corporate or government ledger, your access to it can be restricted instantly. A frozen account means no groceries. A payment glitch means no rent. A denied transaction means no travel. Cashless systems are convenient, but they also turn your financial life into something that can be paused, monitored, or shut down with a single click. Digital IDs, the key that can be taken away. Digital identification promises to make your life easier. One ID to access your bank, your healthcare, your government services. No more passwords, no more paperwork. But that same ID can be used to track every interaction you have with the system. And if access is revoked, you're locked out of everything. The key to your life can be taken away without warning, and the more systems it unlocks, the more power it gives to whoever holds it. The smart security, a double-edged sword. Smart locks, smart alarms, smart cameras, they make you feel like you have control over your home from anywhere in the world. But smart means connected, and connected means hackable or remotely controlled. A traditional lock can be picked, but it can't be disabled from across the country. A smart lock can be, by the manufacturer, by a hacker, or by a legal order. The same device that makes you feel secure can be turned into the very tool that removes your security. The surveillance. Trade. Surveillance cameras are marketed as crime deterrents. Doorbell cameras let you see who's outside without opening the door. Citywide surveillance systems claim to make neighborhoods safer. But surveillance works both ways. When every corner is monitored, every movement recorded, and every interaction stored, safety becomes indistinguishable from surveillance. And surveillance is power. Power that's rarely in your hands. The illusion of safety in dependence. Real security means you can protect yourself, your resources, and your freedom without needing permission. Dependent security means you're safe only as long as the system works and allows you to use it. The difference is subtle until something goes wrong. If your bank's fraud detection blocks your account during travel, can you still pay for food and shelter? If your password manager locks you out, can you still access your essential services? If your smart home goes offline, can you still secure it manually? Protection as a lever of control. The most effective control systems hide behind the language of protection. We're freezing your account for your safety. We're suspending your access to investigate suspicious activity. We're restricting this feature to keep you secure. It sounds like they're working in your best interest, and sometimes they genuinely are. But those same measures can be used to enforce compliance, limit dissent, or punish behavior, all under the guise of safety. The psychological comfort of being protected. There's another reason this illusion is so powerful. We want to feel looked after. The idea that someone else is watching over us, keeping the bad things away, is comforting. It makes us less likely to question how that protection works, who controls it, or what it costs us in freedom and privacy. And once we get used to that comfort, we resist giving it up, even if it means living in a system that can take it away at any moment. When security creates vulnerability. In a paradoxical twist, systems designed to keep us safe can actually create new weaknesses. Centralized data storage is a bigger target for hackers. Complex security systems have more points of failure. Over-reliance on automated protection reduces human vigilance. It's the same pattern over and over. Convenience reduces skill. Dependence reduces resilience. And security becomes a single point of failure. The false choice. The narrative often presented is this: you can have safety or you can have freedom, but not both. But that's not true. The real choice is between dependent safety and independent safety. Dependent safety relies on someone else's system. Independent safety relies on your own skills, preparation, and resources. The first can be taken away from you. The second cannot, unless you give it up willingly. Redefining security. True security isn't about never facing danger. It's about being able to face it without losing your way of life. It's having multiple ways to access your money, your home, your communications. It's being able to function even if the system goes down or turns against you. It's building layers of resilience that don't all depend on the same network or authority. That's not the kind of security most systems are designed to sell you. But it's the kind of security that actually keeps you free. Smart cities, or open-air prisons. We're told the cities of the future will be smarter, cleaner, and more efficient than anything we've ever seen. They'll optimize traffic to eliminate congestion. They'll manage energy use so nothing is wasted. They'll respond instantly to emergencies, adjust lighting for safety, and even predict problems before they happen. It sounds like a utopia, a city that works for you, adapting in real time to your needs. But beneath the promises lies a critical question. When every street, building, and interaction is connected, who controls the connections? And when the system knows everything about you, where you go, what you do, who you meet, are you living in a smart city or a prison without walls? The vision of the smart city. A true smart city integrates technology into every layer of urban life. Smart infrastructure, roads that monitor traffic and adjust signals to improve flow. Smart utilities, power grids that balance supply and demand automatically. Smart services, real-time public transportation updates, AI-driven emergency response. Smart government, digital IDs for accessing public services instantly. It's a city that anticipates your needs before you even express them. From the outside, it's efficiency at its peak. From the inside, it's total integration. And with total integration comes total visibility. The data spine of the city. At the heart of every smart city is a central nervous system, a massive network of sensors, cameras, and devices feeding data into AI systems. This data tracks your movement through facial recognition at street corners, your purchasing habits through linked payment systems, your communications through connected devices, your energy use, water consumption, even your trash disposal. Individually, each data point seems harmless. Together, they form a complete picture of your life in real time. When optimization becomes surveillance. The line between optimization and surveillance is razor thin. A smart traffic system can reroute you to avoid congestion, or it can restrict certain areas based on your social score, legal status, or political activity. Smart lighting can make streets safer, or it can track patterns of behavior to predict and preempt gatherings. Smart utility meters can reduce waste, or they can limit your access if you exceed an assigned quota. The same technology that serves you can be used to control you, often without you even noticing the shift. The fragility of a fully connected city. There's another hidden risk. When every system is connected, every system is vulnerable. A cyber attack could shut down transportation, power, and communications in minutes. A glitch in the network could lock people out of homes, offices, or even hospitals. A centralized authority could impose restrictions instantly, not through sending police to your door, but by digitally sealing the doors themselves. In a fully connected city, the grid isn't just a convenience, it's the air you breathe. And if someone controls that air, they control you. The social credit parallel. Some countries are already experimenting with systems that integrate personal data, financial records, and behavioral tracking into a single citizen score. In these systems, access to travel, loans, jobs, or even certain neighborhoods can be restricted based on your score. And in a smart city, enforcement of these restrictions would be seamless, not through guards or checkpoints, but through digital permissions. No confrontation, no debate, just access denied. The disappearance of anonymity. Cities have always been places of anonymity. In a crowd, you could blend in. In a busy street, you could be anyone. But in a smart city, anonymity is an endangered species. Every camera, every sensor, every connected device is another pair of eyes, not human eyes, but machine eyes that never blink, never forget, and never stop recording. You don't have to be doing anything wrong to feel the weight of that gaze. You just have to exist inside it. The psychological shift. Living in a constantly monitored environment changes behavior. You speak differently when you know you're being recorded. You move differently when you know you're being tracked. You make different choices when you know every choice is being logged. This is how control deepens without a single explicit law. People begin to self-censor, self-limit, and self-surveil. The utopia-dystopia balance. It's important to acknowledge that smart cities can bring real benefits: reduced pollution, faster emergency response, better allocation of resources. But those benefits come with a cost, and the cost is measured in autonomy, privacy, and the ability to move unseen. The real question isn't whether we should have smart cities. It's whether we can build them without turning them into the most efficient control systems ever created. Freedom in a connected world. To keep a smart city from becoming an open-air prison, citizens must demand transparency. Who controls the data? Decentralization. Can critical systems run without a single point of control? Opt-out options. Can you live in the city without being tracked in every movement? Independent oversight. Who ensures the system isn't abused? Because once every streetlight, camera, and sensor is in place, the infrastructure of control is permanent, even if the intent changes over time. Invisible dependency in daily life. Dependency isn't always dramatic. It's not just about losing access to your money, being tracked in a smart city, or having your devices remotely shut down. Some of the most dangerous forms of dependency are quiet, ordinary, and so woven into daily life that we barely notice them. These dependencies don't arrive with sirens and flashing lights. They arrive as habits, small conveniences we accept without question. Little shortcuts that seem harmless until the day we need to function without them and realize we can't. The death of mental math. Once upon a time, people could calculate change in their heads, estimate travel times without a clock, and split bills without pulling out a phone. Today, even the simplest math sends many reaching for a calculator app. Why? Because the brain, like a muscle, atrophies when it's not used. When we outsource basic mental processes to machines, we slowly lose our confidence in doing them ourselves. And this isn't just about math, it's about the mindset. If you don't trust yourself with simple numbers, how easily will you trust yourself with complex problems? The vanishing art of memory. Phone numbers, birthdays, addresses. We once carried these in our heads. Now they live in devices, and our minds stay empty. When you stop memorizing, you stop exercising recall. And when you lose recall, you lose a piece of independence, because you can't act without consulting the system that holds your memories for you. It's a subtle shift. The more you rely on technology to remember for you, the less you remember who you were before you had it. The GPS problem. Navigation skills used to be survival skills. We read maps, followed landmarks, and could find our way without a glowing screen. Now, many people can't drive across their own city without turn-by-turn instructions. We don't notice the cost until GPS fails. Then suddenly, what used to be instinct becomes panic. We've traded self-reliance for guidance, and in doing so, we've surrendered one of the most basic human capabilities, knowing where we are. Losing the hands-on skills. It's not just mental skills that are fading, it's practical ones. Cooking from scratch, repairing clothes, fixing basic household problems. These were once common knowledge. Now, many people don't cook unless they have the recipe on a screen, and won't attempt repairs without a tutorial video. We've become capable only when we have the digital crutch, and helpless without it. The fragility of modern comfort. Our daily lives run on fragile systems we take for granted. Electricity for everything from lights to heating. Internet for work, communication, and entertainment. Refrigeration for food storage. A short outage can turn modern life upside down. Without power, the conveniences we rely on vanish instantly, and with them, much of our ability to function. The "I'll just Google it" mentality. Search engines have become our default brain. Why strain to recall or figure something out when the answer is a few keystrokes away? But this habit has consequences. We lose the ability to think deeply before seeking answers. We forget to verify information because the top search result feels official. We depend on the algorithm's choices for what information we even see. The more we rely on external answers, the less we develop internal ones. Entertainment as default. Once boredom was a spark for creativity. Now, the moment we feel it, we reach for a device. We've trained our minds to need constant stimulation, but this leaves us restless and impatient when life slows down. Worse, it makes solitude and stillness feel uncomfortable, even threatening. Dependency isn't only about survival needs. It's about what we can't emotionally handle without the system. The subtle erosion of resilience. Independence isn't just about skills. It's about resilience, the ability to adapt, to find alternatives, to keep going when things fail. But if every part of daily life is managed by technology, we never get to practice adaptation. We live in a bubble where everything works until it doesn't. And when the bubble pops, we find we have no tools to rebuild it ourselves. Invisible until it's gone. The scariest part of daily life dependency is how invisible it is. We don't notice it until the moment of failure, and by then, it's too late to prepare. When the ATM network crashes, we wish we had cash. When the power goes out, we wish we had candles. When GPS dies, we wish we had a paper map. Preparation feels unnecessary until you need it, and needing it without having it is when dependency turns into crisis. Reclaiming the everyday skills. Breaking invisible dependency doesn't mean rejecting modern life. It means weaving independence back into it. Practice mental math for small transactions. Memorize a few important phone numbers. Learn basic navigation without GPS. Cook meals without digital help. Keep backup systems, cache, printed maps, physical copies of important documents. These small steps don't just restore skills, they restore confidence. When upgrades become obligations. Upgrades are sold as progress, better cameras, faster processors, smarter features. The marketing tells you these changes are optional, a luxury for those who want the best. But over time, something shifts. Upgrades stop feeling like a choice and start feeling like a requirement. The old model you were perfectly happy with suddenly seems inadequate, unsupported, or even unusable. And before you know it, you're not upgrading because you want to, you're upgrading because you have to. The life cycle of the latest and greatest. The cycle is predictable. Launch. A new model arrives full of features that make your current one look outdated. Adoption. Early adopters rush in, showing off the new capabilities. Shift in standards. Apps, services, and accessories start optimizing for the new version. Phase out. Support for older models begins to fade. Obsolescence. Your device works less smoothly, or not at all, until the upgrade becomes inevitable. It's a treadmill disguised as a parade. You're told to celebrate each new release, but the real message is, keep moving or get left behind. The social pressure. Obsolescence isn't just technical, it's social. When your phone is 3 models behind, people notice. When your laptop takes longer to load than everyone else's, you feel it. When your video calls freeze while others run smoothly, it's a reminder that you're behind. The unspoken rule of modern life: if you want to belong, you keep up, and keeping up costs money, regularly. The hidden costs of falling behind. In some cases, not upgrading doesn't just mean missing out on features, it means losing access entirely. Older operating systems stop receiving security updates. Apps refuse to run on older devices. Websites become incompatible with old browsers. It's like living in a city where roads to certain neighborhoods are removed unless you buy a newer car. You can still drive, but your world gets smaller every year. The Red Queen effect. Biologists use the term Red Queen effect to describe species that must keep evolving just to survive in a competitive environment. In technology, it works the same way. You have to keep upgrading just to maintain the same level of functionality you already had. This is why you can spend thousands over the years on devices and still feel like you're running in place. You're not getting ahead, you're just staying functional in a system that's always raising the baseline. Planned upgrade dependency. Companies design ecosystems to make upgrades as frictionless as possible for them. Data transfers instantly from your old device to your new one. Payment plans spread the cost over months, making it feel painless. Trade-in programs reward you for replacing devices before they break. It's presented as convenience. In reality, it's a carefully crafted funnel that turns you into a perpetual upgrader. When software forces the hardware. Sometimes the push to upgrade isn't about the device at all, it's about the software. Updates that require more processing power. Apps that refuse to install on older systems, cloud services that retire compatibility with certain models. It's a subtle form of coercion. They don't tell you to buy a new device, they just make your current one less useful until you decide it yourself. The illusion of choice. Technically, you could keep your old device forever. In practice, the system is designed so that staying with the old means sacrificing access, speed, and even safety. And here's the genius of it. Because you choose to upgrade, it doesn't feel like control, even though the conditions that led to your choice were engineered. When better isn't better. Not every upgrade is truly an improvement. Some features are gimmicks, designed more to create marketing buzz than to solve real problems. Others come with hidden trade-offs: reduced battery life, increased data collection, or compatibility issues. But once an upgrade becomes the new standard, resisting it makes life harder, even if you preferred the old way. Breaking the cycle. Breaking free from upgrade culture doesn't mean never buying new technology. It means buying on your schedule, for your needs, not theirs. Ask yourself, does this upgrade solve a real problem for me? Can I extend the life of what I have instead? Am I replacing this because it's broken or because I'm being told it's obsolete? The more you decide on your own terms, the harder it becomes for the system to turn upgrades into obligations. The consumption debt loop. If the upgrade treadmill keeps you running in place, the consumption debt loop makes sure you never step off it. This is the hidden engine that powers modern dependency, not just on technology, but on the financial systems that fund your access to it. It works like this. You're presented with something new, the must-have device, subscription, or service. You don't have the money on hand, but the system offers you easy financing, or buy now, pay later. You say yes because the payments look small and manageable. Before you've finished paying, the next upgrade arrives, and the cycle restarts. What looks like freedom of choice is actually a finely tuned machine designed to keep you spending money you don't yet have for products you won't own outright in systems you can't control. The psychology of the loop. The consumption debt loop preys on two deeply human instincts: desire and social comparison. We desire what's new because novelty triggers dopamine in the brain, the same chemical that fuels curiosity and motivation. And we compare ourselves to others because social status has always been linked to survival in human history. The modern marketplace has weaponized both. Advertising shows you people like you, but with the latest device, the newest clothes, the premium subscription. The message isn't subtle. If you don't have this, you're falling behind. The easy trap. In the past, buying something beyond your means required taking out a formal loan, which was a big, deliberate step. Today, credit is woven seamlessly into the buying process. 0% interest for the first 12 months. 4 easy payments. Upgrade now, pay later. It feels painless, but the point isn't to make life easier. It's to remove friction so you stop questioning whether you can truly afford it. Debt as a control mechanism. Debt changes the way you live your life. It limits your choices, shapes your priorities, and makes you think twice before taking risks. When a significant portion of your income is tied to paying for the tools you need to function in the modern world, you become far less likely to leave a job you dislike, speak out against a system you depend on, take time off to pursue something independent. The system doesn't have to threaten you directly. Your debt does the job for them. The subscription layer. Debt isn't always a lump sum. Sometimes it's hidden in ongoing obligations. Monthly payments for cloud storage, streaming services, software access, maintenance plans for devices. Individually, these seem small. Together, they form a constant financial drain, a river of money flowing from you to them month after month with no end date. The illusion of ownership. One of the most dangerous aspects of the consumption debt loop is that you often don't truly own what you're paying for. Buy a phone on a contract? The carrier controls it until it's paid off. Buy digital media? You only have a license, which can be revoked at any time. You're not buying assets, you're renting access, and that means you're never free of the system that provides it. Planned scarcity meets planned debt. Planned obsolescence, making products fail or feel outdated quickly, pairs perfectly with easy credit. If products wore out slowly, you could save up before replacing them. But when they fail just in time for the new model and financing is instantly available, you're encouraged to stay in perpetual repayment. It's a seamless handoff between two industries, manufacturing and finance. One creates the need, the other makes sure you can't escape paying for it. Lifestyle inflation. Even when you earn more money, the consumption debt loop finds a way to keep you trapped. Lifestyle inflation happens when your spending rises to match your income. The moment you get a raise, you upgrade your car, your devices, your subscriptions, locking yourself into a new baseline of expenses that feels normal, even though it's entirely optional. This keeps you dependent on maintaining or increasing your income just to keep the life you've built. Breaking the loop. Escaping the consumption debt cycle requires intentional resistance to the culture of constant upgrading. Some practical steps. Delay upgrades until they're truly necessary. Pay off one device or subscription before adding another. Buy second-hand when it meets your needs. Learn to repair instead of replace. Build savings before purchases rather than relying on credit. Each act of resistance is a small reclaiming of freedom, not just financial freedom, but mental freedom from the constant pull of more. The emotional shift. Breaking the loop isn't only about money, it's about identity. It's about shifting from being a consumer first to being a creator, a builder, a problem solver. It's about recognizing that the value you bring to your life isn't measured by the version number on your devices, but by your ability to thrive without being tethered to a payment plan.
Real progress, independence over dependency. We've spent this entire journey dissecting the ways progress has been weaponized to keep us dependent on technology, on corporations, on financial systems, on infrastructure we don't control. But it's important to remember something. Dependency is not an unavoidable consequence of progress. It's a choice made by those who design, own, and control the systems we live in. Real progress, the kind that genuinely moves humanity forward, doesn't make you weaker. It doesn't strip away your skills, your resilience, or your freedom. It makes you stronger. It gives you more options, not fewer. It allows you to survive and thrive with or without the system. Redefining advancement. We've been taught to measure progress by speed, power, and convenience. How fast the internet is, how many megapixels a camera has, how quickly we can get a product to our door. But if we redefine progress through the lens of independence, the questions change. Can I use this tool without being locked into a contract? Can I repair it myself without specialized proprietary parts? Can I continue using it even if the company that made it disappears tomorrow? Real advancement increases your ability to stand on your own, not your need to lean harder on someone else. Technology as an empowerment tool. Technology itself is not the enemy. It's the terms under which we access it that matter. An empowering technology runs on open standards so anyone can maintain or improve it, works offline when necessary, gives you ownership over your data and hardware, can be integrated into self-sufficient systems like solar-powered servers or locally hosted software. The difference between dependency tech and empowerment tech is not the complexity of the tool, but whether it frees or binds the person using it. The role of self-sufficiency. Independence in the modern world doesn't mean rejecting all systems. It means refusing to be held hostage by them. Energy independence, generating your own power through solar, wind, or microhydro. Food independence, growing even part of your own food to reduce reliance on industrial supply chains. Information independence, storing critical knowledge in formats and locations you control. These aren't romantic throwbacks to a simpler time. They're practical measures for a world that's more volatile and interconnected than ever before. Resilient by design. Imagine if products were built for resilience, not replacement. Devices with modular parts you can swap out yourself. Cars with mechanical fail-safes that work without electronics. Homes designed to be off-grid capable from day one. This is not only possible, it's already happening in small pockets of resistance. Open source hardware communities, repair cafes, local energy cooperatives. They just haven't become the mainstream because mainstream business models thrive on planned obsolescence, not durability. The hybrid approach. Some people imagine independence as an all-or-nothing choice. Either live entirely off-grid or be fully plugged into modern life. But the truth is, the most powerful position is a hybrid one. Use the best of what modern technology offers, but keep the skills and systems that let you survive without it. That means having digital maps, but also knowing how to read paper ones. Using online banking, but keeping a cash reserve. Leveraging automation, but retaining manual skills. It's not about rejecting progress. It's about having a backup plan when progress fails you. The true independence starts in the mind. It's the shift from asking, what's the easiest way to get this done, to what's the most resilient way to get this done. Resilience might be harder in the short term, learning to cook instead of ordering food, repairing instead of replacing. But every time you choose it, you're buying back a piece of your freedom. When you stop expecting systems to provide for you automatically, you start reclaiming the power to provide for yourself. Community as a force multiplier. Independence doesn't mean isolation. In fact, resilient communities are far more powerful than resilient individuals. When skills, tools, and resources are shared, one person's solar array can support multiple homes in an outage. A community garden can reduce everyone's grocery bill. Local knowledge can bypass centralized systems in times of crisis. The irony is that the most independent people often belong to the most interconnected local communities, not corporate networks, but human networks. Demanding a new standard. The reason dependency-based progress dominates is because consumers have accepted it. Every time we choose convenience over control, we reinforce the business model. If enough people start demanding repairable products, open platforms, and independent-friendly designs, companies will follow, not out of kindness, but because markets respond to demand. True change doesn't start in boardrooms. It starts in the small, personal decisions of millions of individuals who are no longer willing to rent their own capabilities.
Breaking the progress trap. We've pulled back the curtain on the systems that shape our lives, the upgrades that become obligations, the conveniences that erode our resilience, the cities that watch our every move. We've seen how technology, business, and psychology intertwine to create not freedom, but dependency. But recognizing the trap is only the first step. If we stop here, nothing changes. If we let awareness become just another form of entertainment, we'll nod, agree, and go right back to living in the cage. Breaking the progress trap requires more than knowing it exists. It demands a shift in how we think, how we buy, how we live, and how we prepare for the future. Step 1. Awareness without illusion. The first step is simple but powerful. Call things by their real name. An upgrade that removes features unless you pay more isn't progress, it's coercion. A smart device that won't function offline isn't advanced, it's a leash. A convenience that leaves you helpless without it isn't convenience, it's control. When you strip away the marketing language and see the mechanism for what it is, the emotional pull weakens. You stop being a passive participant and start becoming an active observer. Step 2. Choose for yourself. Breaking the trap doesn't mean rejecting technology. It means making choices on your terms, not theirs. Ask yourself, does this tool make me more capable without it or less? Can I still function if this system fails? Am I buying because I need it or because I've been told I'm incomplete without it? Every purchase, every subscription, every upgrade is a vote. When you choose differently, you vote against the system that thrives on your dependence. Step 3. Build parallel capabilities. Independence isn't about cutting the cord overnight. It's about creating parallel systems so you always have a backup. Use digital maps, but learn to navigate with a compass and taper map. Keep your cloud storage, but also maintain local copies of important files. Use online banking, but keep some cash or alternative means of payment. Enjoy streaming services, but keep offline entertainment options for when the connection is gone. These parallel skills and systems turn outages, shutdowns, or restrictions from crises into inconveniences. Step 4. Own, don't rent. Where possible, choose ownership over access. Own your tools. Own your data. Own your energy source. If you can't own the thing itself, own the means to replace it. Ownership shifts control back into your hands.
When you own something outright, no subscription can take it away, no policy update can lock you out, and no corporate sunset plan can render it useless overnight. Step 5. Learn to maintain and repair. One of the most radical acts you can take in a throwaway economy is to make things last. Learn basic repair skills for your devices, your home, your clothes, your tools. Support companies and communities that make repair possible, from open-source hardware to local fix-it shops. Every time you repair instead of replace, you're not just saving money, you're breaking the cycle that keeps you dependent on the next purchase. Step 6. Build human networks. No one is truly independent alone. The most resilient people belong to resilient communities. Form connections with people who can teach, trade, and share resources. A neighbor with a garden is as valuable as a friend with a generator. A group that shares skills is stronger than any one person who tries to do it all. Human networks can do what no corporate system will ever do: put your well-being above profit. Step 7. Guard your mind. The progress trap doesn't just operate on your wallet, it operates on your attention. It tries to convince you that convenience is always better, that faster is always progress, and that normal is whatever the system says it is. Guarding your mind means limiting your exposure to manipulative advertising, questioning narratives that push urgency or fear, practicing patience before making buying decisions. When you control your attention, you control the inputs that shape your desires, and that's where real freedom begins. Redefine success. The system wants you to measure success by consumption: the latest device, the newest car, the highest tier subscription. But real success is measured by resilience, how well you can function and thrive when the systems around you falter. Redefining success means celebrating skills over possessions, capability over convenience, freedom over conformity. It means teaching the next generation that independence is not about having everything, but about being able to handle anything. The choice before us. We're standing at a turning point. Technology will keep advancing. There's no stopping that. The question is whether it will advance for us or against us. If we keep rewarding dependency-based progress, we'll get more of it. If we start demanding independence-based progress, we'll change the trajectory. But this choice isn't made in conference rooms or political speeches. It's made in everyday actions. What you buy, what you keep, what you learn, what you teach. A final thought. The progress trap works because it hides its chains under silk and gold. It offers you luxury, speed, and ease, but in exchange, it quietly takes away your ability to live without it. Breaking the trap doesn't mean living in fear of the future. It means shaping the future so that it serves you, not the other way around. It means standing in a world full of systems, using them when they serve you, and walking away when they don't, without losing your ability to stand on your own. Because in the end, true progress is not measured by how advanced our tools become. It's measured by how free we remain when the tools are gone.